And a good Tuesday evening, everybody. Chris McDonald, grateful to be with you on this Tuesday night McFiles, and always a pleasure to have you back here. And we've got our dear buddy James Akers on tonight, and we are going to have Rob Manis on Thursday night. Rob is a military intelligence person, going to be his first appearance on the McFiles. So 8 o'clock Thursday night, we'll have a double feature Thursday, and but tonight we have got the one and only James Akers, our former CIA intelligence officer, but it's good to see you tonight, and a lot going on. We haven't talked to you since we had you on Saturday morning when we did the special, and a lot has happened even since Saturday. when Operation Epic Fury broke out. We wanted to sort of update people on what's going on there. But it's good to see you tonight. How are you, friend?
I'm doing fine. Good being with you.
Good being with you. James, since we've talked last, we've understood that 6 of our U.S. servicemen have went down, fallen heroes, were killed in the line of duty. Probably a majority of these were during those attacks that hit our Air Force bases in the Middle East. They released the pictures tonight of 4 of those individuals, and we've got it on our Facebook page, but we'll go ahead and put it up here. It looks like a female there and 3 gentlemen that are there, and of course there's 2 more that their pictures have not been released. But what are your thoughts on that, and also the fact that President Trump tended to indicate over the weekend that this is going to be it's not going to be a summertime midnight hammer and then we're out and back home. This is going to be maybe a 3 to 4 week event. But even though it looks like that we're making a lot of progress, and as far as military operations go, it looks like we're really meeting a lot of goals because we're ahead of schedule, because a lot of Iran's infrastructure has been torn to pieces tonight, from what I understand. What's your thoughts on all that?
Yeah, well, but, you always regret the loss of life. So one American soldier would be too many.
I'll agree.
But again, it's to be expected. Unfortunately, an unexpected event in war. I think CENTCOM said today they've hit like over 2,000 targets inside Iran, and so I think the game plan to steadily degrade Iran's ability to hit U.S. forces in the region and to hit these key Gulf Emirates it is on track. I think the first day there were like 100 launched, and that number's been considerably reduced. And the key is hitting the launchers. And it doesn't matter if they have 50 missiles in a bunker someplace. If the launchers hit, those missiles are not going to get airborne, and so they're going after the launchers, going after key communication nodes. That's the way modern militaries fight wars these days, and I think they're having the Navy. What I saw, I think on TV tonight, 17 naval vessels have been sunk. So, I think they're on course. And any other time in history, you would have a party that's not in power celebrating the fact that these mullahs. We're taking action against them. It should be celebrated, and yet, I think we've got fiercer enemies across the hall in Washington than we're seeing in the Middle East.
No, we do, and as I told you before the show started tonight, with friends like we've got in D.C. and with friends like we've got in Europe and in Britain tonight, in Spain, Canada, Mr. Carney got up today and basically started praising the Ayatollah, as did Starmer in Britain. Spain has said they basically, are siding, they're celebrating his death. The Washington Post, James, put a obituary together that made the Ayatollah Khamenei sound like Mr. Rogers, and it sounded like he was a bigger figure of history than Donald Trump. And that's coming from our own people. That's coming from here in America. We call that traitorous. I don't really care tonight. I'll get your thoughts on this, because these are allies. We have. I don't mind saying this. Look, we uh, fought a revolutionary war to get free from Britain. But had America not entered the Second World War, British people would be speaking German tonight. If we wouldn't have entered the Second World War, the French people would have been speaking German. All of Europe would have been speaking German. And every war that Europe has ever found itself mucked in, we've been drug into it to save their carcasses because they don't fight. They have no inkling of fighting. And then whenever we go to war and we go for a righteous cause to remove a murderous regime, to free thousands, maybe millions of people in Iran from this grip of terror, all of a sudden our friends are few and far behind. One thing Trump said tonight, because I want to also get your opinion on this, a lot of people are claiming wrongly, a lot of podcasters are claiming wrongly and saying things that we got into this war because of Israel, that Israel forced our hand. Trump debunked that tonight, and he said, no, it wasn't Israel forcing our hand. We forced Israel's hand. We were going to do this with or without her, but she came along because we were going in there, and they felt like they could do some cleaning up too. This is not about Israel. This is about the United States of America ending a 50-year reign of terror, period. And let all the naysayers say what they want and believe what they want to believe. It's nothing but a bunch of poppycock. All right, that's as good a soapbox you're going to get tonight. Take off on yours now.
Well, it, what I think happens in the beginning, Trump's taken a political position. He's been taking a lot of flack because it seems like the United States was dragged along into this thing. I think what really happened, this is the first time in my memory that you have a clear intelligence assessment fixing the Ayatollah and the leaders of this regime in one place, and it was a now or never opportunity, and both the Israelis and President Trump took advantage of it, and so that launched things off. And then once that happens, then everything else follows. But I was really interested in Witkoff's statement today when he said that during the initial negotiation conversation that the Iranians admitted that they had enriched enough uranium at a 60% level, enough uranium for 11 nuclear, and sort of just thumbed their nose and said, we've done this and you can't do anything about it.
Well, that's where I was going with the next question, because he said that last night on Hannity, and that slaps in the face of all of this naysaying about, well, we've got no righteous position to just bomb Iran indiscriminately. We're not bombing Iran indiscriminately tonight. We're justified in doing it. I got a post in our Telegram room on the McFiles Faith Network, Faith and News Network. This is our Telegram room for this show, our news show. And we basically put a Word document up and cut and pasted the White House letter today that listed almost, I think, 30 things that the Iranians have done since 1979. Nearly over 50 acts of terror, over 50 years of this, James. Almost. It's 37 years of terror. 47 years of terror, actually, since that day, or since that time. It started in November of 79 with those hostages. And the blood of thousands, not hundreds, but thousands of American lives. Let's take Israel out of the equation for a minute. They've slaughtered a lot of Jews, but they've also slaughtered Americans. And just an aside, I would argue that the Iraqi war would have probably not been as ugly and brutal on us had it not been for Iran. Nearly 600 of our soldiers that were killed in that conflict, they were tied, those deaths were tied to interference into the conflict by Iran. October the 7th, when they kidnapped some of our people and some of our people died. That was Iran. That was backing Hamas. So this idea that we're not justified in doing it falls flat when you take into consideration what Wyckoff said last night, because they were close. In fact, even the UN attorney, the Secretary General of the UN today, no friend of Trump, no fan of Trump. The UN's not a fan of America. But he got on his platform today and said, look, the Iranians were closer than we thought to getting a bomb. And then all the naysayers are out there saying, well, y'all said this for 30 years. There was something different about this, James. I don't think Trump brings us into this had there not been sufficient intelligence that this was a now or never. Bibi Netanyahu said it too last night on Hannity. He said if we wouldn't have done it now, we wouldn't have been able to do it in the future. You agree with that?
I agree. It's as a former intel type, the intelligence was clear. It's a now or never opportunity, and if you don't do it now, you live with the consequences of this for decades. If the Iranians had obtained a nuclear device, they would have held the rest of the world hostage, and I think everybody recognizes that. What you have is just this incredible political polarization in this country that cannot force themselves to admit that it was the right thing to do. You have Great Britain, that London is rapidly becoming a Muslim city, and so you have they are bending over backwards to be deferent to Muslim communities in that country. France has been that way since the Algerian episodes, and the rest of Europe because of this just open-brained, open border situation where all of these Muslims come into the country. I mean, if you travel in Germany, you would think you're in sections of Turkey.
Without a doubt.
And so what you have is that all of that rich history of the Europeans defending Western culture and this, that, and the other, you're just going to see that steadily dissipate. This is just the beginning of this sort of stuff, and so my hat's off to Donald Trump. There's a lot to disagree with him about, but and it certainly wasn't a move of political convenience that he took. It was a decisive act that he took, and I think he's exactly right when he says we haven't had another president in recent history that had the cojones to make the decision.
No, nobody's done it. This goes back to Reagan. I was listening to Lindsey Graham last night. I'm no fan of Lindsey Graham, but I had to agree with what he said. You go back to those attacks on those barracks, James, in 1983. I was a senior in high school that year. I was out of high school when the October event occurred. 224 Marines were killed in Beirut, Lebanon. And Reagan talked a tough game, but he never unleashed the military to go in and clean out Hezbollah then. And even Reagan sort of wavered in his action in the Middle East. It was almost like we were paralyzed. We've always been paralyzed. And then Bush Sr. come along, and his way of fixing it was, well, let's pressure Israel to give up all our land to the Arabs, and that appeased the Arabs, and it did nothing but bring judgment on him. It brought judgment on his country, and it led to Clinton because of his despicable behavior these last 2 years. The country accepted this despicable president called Bill Clinton for 8 years. And I'm not saying Bill Clinton was in his policies. There were some things that Clinton did politically, not morally. I'm not talking about him morally. But if you would have just judged him based on political things, at least he had the sense to come to the center. But he too tried to pressure Israel to give up her land for peace. Bush Jr. did it. Trump's been the only president so far we've had. Obama and Biden, I don't even want to get into what their actions were. You know, we're here tonight, and this is why I'm sick of hearing about the Democrats. Hear the Democrats talk like they do. We're here tonight because of the failure of both parties up to this point not confronting this evil. And buddy, you're in a world, what you used to do for a living, you know this. When you don't confront evil in this world, that evil confronts you eventually. And Trump looked at this. I believe how he looked at this and said, you know, I'm tired of us trying to go to bed at night wondering if Iran's going to do something tomorrow. And, you know, he gave them every chance they could to come to the table, operate in good faith, and they didn't do it. And he unleashed Operation Epic Fury. And I understand tonight it's going to get more intense. And I think what I'm seeing on X tonight, we're unleashing the Kraken against the the Iranian government tonight. I would not be sleeping with both eyes. I wouldn't even be sleeping with both eyes open tonight if I'm Iranian leadership. That's what I feel. What's your thoughts on all that?
Yeah, I think I heard somebody make a real good point today. As we take out these launchers, those aircraft that are flying those sorties to find those launchers, as that threat diminishes over the next few days, those same aircraft can go against besieged targets, the IRGC targets, Quds targets, those targets that were as much about repressing their own people as they were fighting military campaigns abroad. When that starts happening, then you're going to see this war enter a whole new phase. And what is we are still in the, I would argue, I haven't heard anybody make this point. I would argue that we are still in the aftermath of what the Israelis did to Hezbollah with the pagers.
Yes.
And when they took out
Come on.
the entire Hezbollah leadership. And it absolutely paralyzed them. You have some rogue elements now that are launching sort of sporadic missiles.
Great point.
And Israel has taken advantage of that opportunity to absolutely wipe out Hezbollah's banking and other interests in southern Beirut. But my point is that when the Iranians saw that, they did a massive series of gaming. How are we going to face this sort of situation? And what they did was they decentralized a lot of their command and control. And so what you're going to see is IRGC sort of rogue units that have maybe 3 or 4 launchers with them, and the activity is going to shift. Instead of a cohesive strategy, is going to shift to that sort of thing. But there was also another aspect of what Israel did to Hezbollah. It gave Israel the notion that with one strike, they could eliminate and paralyze the Iranian leadership, and that's what that strike was all about. And they didn't take into account. This is just my opinion. They didn't take into account sort of the lessons learned from the Iranians, so that we're not going to see the same thing we saw with Hezbollah, because the command structure has been
decimated,
diffused.
Yeah.
And the central command structure has been reduced to rubble, you still have a whole new situation because they anticipated. These guys live to die, right? That's one bad
Pretty
thing
much.
about a death culture. They had planned to be killed because that's their psychology. It's not a life based psychology; it's a death based psychology, and so they have planned for it, and we're going to have to sort of adjust our way of thinking to take that into account. That's a James Akers point of view. I haven't heard anybody else
Yeah, it's pretty good stuff.
quite
No, I think that's
put it
very,
quite those terms.
yeah, it's very wise. And it's funny. I heard somebody on Waters' program tonight that Sunday, Iran shot 100 missiles in various parts of the Middle East. Tonight, they're only shooting 20. So we've done some damage to their missile silos, but that was another aspect of this that I think we underestimated how many missiles they had. And Bibi made that point last night that they were going to probably, the reason they were trying to bargain for time with Witchkoff and Kushner was that they were trying to bury these missiles that they had stockpiled. And even one of the Iranian leaders tonight is bragging that they've been planning for this for a long time, and they're supposedly claiming that they've got more missiles than we've got, and they've not unleashed them all yet. That they're somewhere hidden from the Americans and the Israelis, and they're going to launch a surprise. And I've heard this one before. It's called Baghdad Bob. You remember him? That the Iraqis are winning, and the Americans were on the doorstep of Baghdad. He sounded almost like Baghdad Bob tonight. So this was the idiot Iranian. I'll call him that. But anyway, do you think that we have underestimated their capability, or do you think that we're looking at this being over with within a few days? Because at this rate, if we've taken them from 100 missiles being shot to 20, we've done some pretty major damage. And I think the fears of boots on the ground and a protracted war, I think, can be eased tonight, because I don't see that being too protracted if we're taking them down from 100 to 20.
Yeah, well, there are two dynamics that are going on here. Number one is that that if I'm right and you have a sort of a disparate command structure, these rogue elements are going to find it much easier to hide missiles and missile launchers, and so it becomes sort of a whack-a-mole process of figuring out when you can go after those launchers.
Are you talking about guerrilla warfare, sort of like that, what they did to us in Iraq after we invaded? Are we looking at something like that?
Well, we could be, but I think it's just more that you have in various parts, and you're talking about a country that's 2.5 times the size of Texas.
That's very true.
It is no easy feat to identify on a timely basis missile launchers in an area that big, and so in these opening days we've gone after the major targets, the big targets, and now the more difficult job of hitting those individual launchers that are hidden among these rogue elements begins. The Israelis are very good at that. They've been playing that game for a long time against Hezbollah. We are not quite as skilled at that. So,
Good point.
but that's what you're going to see over the days ahead. The Iranians have lost, I would argue, in line with that analyst that you saw on Fox today, that the day when the Iranians can mount waves of missiles, 80 and 100 at a time, are probably over.
I believe that. But does that worry you that the ones they have left? Do you think that this guy's telling the truth? That perhaps they've got a surprise, or again, is your prediction? I get a sense. I don't know, James. We talked about this both Friday night and Saturday, and you were dealing with a unique regime in Iran that's unlike any other in the Middle East. As you said a while ago already, this is a death cult. They have planned for this. They sort of have felt like this day's coming. I don't doubt they planned for it. I'm sort of mixed. There's a part of me that's optimistic that believes that we've done exactly what we've said. I think that I think this country, we've seen this picture before. We've seen this movie before. We go over there, we do really good at the start, and then when the real tough part comes, the country starts losing faith in what we're doing, and that's all my concern is. I just hope that the optimism that we're seeing right now is not replaced by pessimism. If there are surprises, and we need to brace ourselves for that there is a chance that even though they can't shoot 100 or 80 to 100 off at one time, those 20 missiles can make some strategic damage. If they're shot in the right place, they can do a lot of damage and kill people. Correct?
Yeah, and then you have another phenomenon. I remember, Chris, when I was still in Washington and was invited to a war game that was set way out in the future and took place in the Pacific, and we had all sorts of experts sitting around the table. And one thing that became clear was that in the first 5 to 10 days of a military operation, we had expended all of our top end inventory, those very sophisticated weapons. And it takes, because we have allowed our defense industry to get in such pitiful shape, it takes months and years to replace what we fire off in the first 5 to 10 days of these types of operations. And so there's going to be an important logistical angle to this as well. And what you don't want to do is to have the PACOM commander giving all of his missiles and the bombs that now have their own AI and guided munitions and all that stuff. You don't want to have all that stuff transferred from the Pacific to CENTCOM in the event something goes wacko in Taiwan. And so,
Good point.
we are expending, one of the rules of war is you always underestimate the amount of weapons, especially these precision guided packages that you use. And we've had great success because we've went after sort of concentrated targets in the beginning. As you have to make decision on what types of weapons to use when you're going after these more disparate elements around the country, it becomes a bit of a different game, and you enter into a grind period where there are no longer the spectacular successes, but you measure success one target at a
Gotcha.
time.
Gotcha.
And this country just doesn't have the patience for that sort of thing. This thing, for political reasons, probably has to get over with in pretty much of a hurry. So
Do you see it getting over in a hurry?
I do.
Okay.
I quite honestly do, because the political stakes of it going for a long, long time are just too dear. It's too great a price to pay. So we're going to exact as much damage as we can, declare victory, and get out of there. That would be my best guess on what's going to happen.
You're in the world of intelligence, and I know that you're the one that would basically tell the CIA. Your job in the past would have been to advise what to do in these theaters like this with this going on. As you look over this landscape, has it shocked you that the Arab world outside of Iran has not come to her defense? And I'm going to ask you about Russia and China. They've sit this one out too. I mean, they've said some things, and like they always do, they bluster. But to our knowledge, I've not seen any reports that Iran has been basically financed or funded with weapons or any kind of money so far from either China or Russia, and even Turkey. Turkey's out there mourning the loss of Khomeini, but they're not coming and saying, "Hey, we're going to join this fight with you." Has that shocked you as an analyst for the CIA over the years? Because you would have think that these global conflicts like this, these regional conflicts, with the hatred of Israel the way it is, that the Arab world would have at least not been anti-Iran. They may not have been. They definitely wouldn't have been pro-Israel, but the Arab nations, Qatar, UAE, Saudi Arabia, they are basically telling Iran, we're coming after you. Have you been shocked at that?
Well, I was shocked that to the extent that the Iranians sort of shot themselves in the foot by hitting the Emirates, especially since they do so much of their own banking. The IRGC does so much of its banking through some of those Emirates. They've become sort of important avenues for Iran to get out to the rest of the world, and so. All of that goes back. There are two separate dynamics. There are two rules to the dance in the Middle East. The one is a Muslim, Jewish, Israeli dynamic, which is a spiritual dynamic that has been fixed for hundreds of years. The other dynamic, which is almost as old, is the Sunni Shia split.
Correct.
There is no love lost
Between the Sunnis and the Shias.
between the two. But now, as Muslims, that's why they would much rather let the Israelis and the Americans take the hit for everything, and in the back rooms and among the intelligence agencies themselves, they're all cheering on. We are so glad that we move this nuclear threat off the table.
That's what I'm hearing tonight.
What's going to be interesting is you had the Iranians hit a couple of the major with drone attacks, and they've done them in the past as well. A couple of the Saudi major oil fields, and it'll be interesting to see. And I think the Saudis are gradually moving towards this position. It's going to be interesting to see if over the next 2 weeks you don't have Saudi aircraft participating in offensive bombing runs in Iran.
Wow.
I'm waiting for that to happen, and when it does, then that situation sort of flips to the Sunni Shia rivalry, and the other one sort of fades into the background.
Have you ever, in your history, I'm trying to think in my mind when the Saudis have ever attacked Iran, and that would be a first, would it not be? I mean, that would be historical.
No, because what they have done is is there has been a Cold War of sorts in the Middle East, but it's fought with proxies.
Gotcha.
And
Gotcha.
you've had Sunni versus Shia proxies all over the Middle East. So they have sort of hid behind that veneer of proxy warfare. This would be a major development which has all sorts of from our Christian perspective into the world overtones to it. If that would happen, it would set up the alliances that are straight out of Scripture that
Absolutely.
describes in
No,
the
it's
end
very true.
times.
No, I'm with you there. I got to ask you about another nation that nobody's talking about, and I had thought about this last night. Thought about it over the weekend, but things were so happening so quickly I didn't have time to discuss it with you. But I knew we'd have time tonight. Where do you think Iraq fits into this? They have been very, very quiet. Unless I'm missing something, I've looked and looked and looked for any comment from the Iraqi government. But James, Iraq and Iran were bitter, bitter, bitter enemies in the late 80s. And Saddam Hussein did some horrible things to the Iranian people and government with that chemical warfare that he unleashed in the late 80s, early 90s. It's what got him in trouble in Kuwait because he invaded Kuwait. He got a big head. And a lot of that was because of American policy. But he went into Kuwait early 90, early 91. And of course, that led to the first Gulf War. And we've dealt with Iraq. And, just 23 years ago, we invaded Iraq and set up the debacle of the Bush Jr. administration. But where do you think they fall in this tonight? Because they're a different brand of Islam too, but they are not out there rah-rahing the Israelis and the Americans. They're just sitting this out quietly. Do you think there's things going on behind the scenes that we're not aware of? Or what's your thoughts on all that?
Well, you had in the green zone, you had those protests immediately after the first wave of air attacks, and what's you see, anytime you talk about the Middle East, you talk about demographics. Iraq has a huge Shia population. And they have self-standing Shia militias that even the government has been reluctant to take on, and so that's the reason you're not going to get much out of Iraq is because they have an internal situation with their own Shia minority
Gotcha.
that causes problems for them.
Do you think that the Shia minority in Iraq would think even remotely of joining in with the Shia majority in Iran against us?
Well, they have historically in the past. They have there have been some of those really radical Shia organizations in Iraq that have attacked American positions in the Middle East, and so that's sort of a historical problem there. The Iraq's just an interesting case study because in the late 80s, I mean, you talk about a violent war with casualties. We still don't know
exactly
how many died between Iran and Iraq, and that was the proving ground for a lot of the leadership that's now
in charge of Iran.
Tear down that's Iran. That's where they earned their battle scars, was in that war.
Well, I want to ask you about that because I know that people may or may not remember these days. I do. I was just a snot-nosed kid during those days. I was just growing up. I was just out of high school, but I remember. Of course, I remember the Iranian hostage crisis. I was a sophomore in high school. I was sitting in my high school history class. It was all the ironic thing, we were watching the inauguration of Ronald Reagan, in 1981, January, and that's when the hostages came home. And right after Reagan took office, Iran was our number one enemy, and then all of a sudden, when this war broke out in 82, 83 with the Iraqis and the Iranians, we backed Iraq. And is it fair to say that our government propped up Saddam Hussein until he became Saddam the tyrant? And you talking about dynamics and demographics, man. America has not backed. We have a problem in our past of backing the wrong amigos, don't we? And I'm not
Yeah,
saying we backed the wrong amigo there, because Iran was a dire enemy of ours in the 80s until this happened, and then this led to Iraq. The whole Middle East has been nothing but an abyss for this nation, and it just. I think the quicker we get out of Iran and get out of this mess, the better we get our troops back home, because it's never ended well for America when we're over there.
yeah. I think I told you this once before. I went out to a college, and I went into the dean, and I said, you know, your students, they're really strong on American history here, but these kids have no clue in terms of what's going on abroad. And I said, if you give me the latitude to do it, I said, and this was much closer to 9/11. I said, if you give me the latitude to do it, I can teach an entire history of the modern Middle East, focusing on 4 to 5 events that happened in 1979. And one of the key events of that year was the Iranian Revolution with the Shah, and
Yes,
we are still dealing with the
dealing with that.
consequences of that.
We are.
And we just eliminated a a uh, a cleric with the title of Ayatollah, and in the Western world we still don't know exactly how one in the Shia world obtains the title of Ayatollah. The Ayatollah that was just killed in the bombing strike was very low level cleric. He came to power because the other elites, theocratic and administrative elites, thought that he was a person that could be manipulated, and instead he raised up the Basij, these radical home units, police units that were moral police to enforce all of that. He was the one that put together sort of the Praetorian Guard, the IRGC, basically to ensure and secure his rule. And so that's one of the reasons why it was so important to move him out of the picture. And nobody knows what happens next. They have this sort of to shepherd the country into the next phase. They've established this three-person sort of
Council. Yeah.
council to run the country. One of them is the president, who has an administrative background, and at least most people think is the most moderate of the three. And then you have the Supreme Court justice, who basically used the whole judicial mechanism to put down and repress any sort of internal dissent. And then you have a much more radical cleric than the Ayatollah we just eliminated. That is a part of that, and standing in the wings
It's his
is
son.
is his son, and also another one, Lanjani,
Johnny.
that has the loyalty of certain parts of the IRGC and the military, and may be the most dangerous figure of all if he figures out a way to outmaneuver the others.
And James, he's
So
more dangerous in his,
everything,
not to interrupt
yes,
you, but he's more dangerous in his theology and his ideology and outlook because he's threatened to blow America off the map and Israel too. And not to interrupt you, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but you're right. Lanjani is more dangerous than the Khomeini and his son put together, and that leads me to my next question. Where where do we go from here? Like, I know the Dems are out there screaming tonight that we don't have an exit plan, and I'm not going to agree with that. I believe we very much have an exit plan. But one thing that neither the Democrat Party or the Republican Party know tonight, and I don't think Trump knows, is how the Iranian people are going to pick the pieces up after this is over and what direction they're going to take. And if there are elements in that nation that are still around, this Islamic hardline Islam Sharia law thing or government regime, um, do we just wind up with the same thing after all the bombing and all the strikes and all this? Are we back at square one, or do you think that there's going to be an actual change in the direction of the Iranian people? Because it's ultimately going to be up to them what direction they want to take, isn't it not?
it is. But the radical clergy has, you know, really done, in terms of pure power terms and control terms, which is the end point of politics anyhow, right? They have done a masterful job of controlling what is essentially a Persian populace with a long and storied and glamorous history of their own. And this is a 1979 veneer of radicalism that was imposed on the people. And our best hope is that there will be moderate voices that will arise. But they are moderate voices without weapons. They are moderate voices with a moral platform to stand on only, and that is not going to come about quickly. All of these other vested institutional theocratic interests are going to have to vie with each other, and there's going to be all of this uncertainty, and there's always a danger that at the end of the day, what you're going to end up with is a totally failed state, and that could be the worst of all options.
I wish I could keep you on talking about this all night. I'm going to get you back on probably later this week, Lord willing, and definitely next week. But I want to shift focus tonight because we do have some election news, and I want to get your take on that. And folks are watching a very special live McFiles Tuesday night. We got our dear friend James Akers on. He's a regular on the show, always bringing us good insight, bringing us some great insight tonight to the latest from Iran. And Zella, I'm very aware that um, the sun is in line, but I put it like this: being installed right now as the next supreme leader of Iran, that's a joke because that's about like the Roadrunner and him appointing a successor to him because they're all destined for destruction. So I really don't care who's in line. They're all going to perish because the whole purpose of this circus that's going on tonight, and I'm not saying that disrespectfully, the whole purpose of what we're doing over there is to get rid of that regime. So I don't really care who they've got in line for their next leader because I would say, James, that's not a job that you and I would want. No more than it would be a cell phone holder in Iran or a cell phone holder in Lebanon tonight, correct? I'm just saying.
That's right. And there, and Chris, without getting too far in the weeds on this thing. There are tensions within that system.
There are.
The military has been totally sidelined in favor of this sort of Praetorian Guard, the IRGC, and the Quds Force, and so there's some resentment there. There's administrators that want to run a country effectively, and there's tension there. There's a whole existing group of radical clerics that have controlled the university system in that country and have been turning out acolytes for now since 1979. And so there's a tension between, I would suggest, those three groups, and everybody is all about making money at the same time. And so you have so many tensions in that system that now you have sort of unleashed a Pandora's box by blowing the lid off of it, the upper tier, and it is going to take a while to play out, and it is going to be fascinating to watch it as it unfolds.
Oh, absolutely. And one quick question: do you think the Shah's son has a prayer in taking over, because he's out there sort of campaigning, in a sense, to be the next leader? But is there too many bad memories of his daddy for that to happen? Because it wasn't peaches and cream under the Shah. I mean, we betrayed the Shah, and look, he wound up in exile. Jimmy Carter should be, I don't want to say what I was about to say about Jimmy Carter, but Jimmy Carter was a horrible president. And he is, to me, I'll lay some of the blame of this tonight on his door. Because like you said a while ago, well, buddy, we're still reaping from that. I'll make this final question about Iran, because I want to talk about these elections tonight before I let you go. Do you think he has a prayer in leading a rebuilt Iran after the ashes clear?
James Akers' view of that, not a chance in Hades.
about like the fact that the Reds are going to win the National League Central next year, right? I shouldn't say that, because you're a Reds fan. I should in Kentucky. Let me make a better analogy. Like the fact that you told me how bad Kentucky was playing tonight, that not a chance in Hades they're going to beat Texas A&M tonight in college basketball, right? Is that sort of what I'm hearing? So
no. This guy has sort of a creation of the media. There's a huge expat population in the United States of former Shaw generals and their kids, and he just had a vicious secret police network. All of those people escaped and are over here, and there are a lot of really good, solid citizens that wanted to get away from that theocratic nightmare that are here. And there is a huge expat community. He's sort of a darling spokesman of that community.
Gotcha.
But I don't think there is 1 ounce of sentiment to return a monarchy to Iran.
I don't either, and I see that all over X, that he's the crown prince and he's the heir apparent, and I don't feel that. I get a sense that I think you just nailed it. I think that there's too many bad memories, because again, we need to make it clear, the Shah, while I hate what happened to him and what Carter did to him, and I wasn't even old enough to understand these things then in 79, but even listening to my parents, I was a freshman in high school when this all happened, and a sophomore when the hostages came home. But look, it was not peaches and cream. That whole regime has never been, ever since it changed its name to Persia, from Persia to Iran, Iran has not been a peaches and cream place to live in, because the Shah was just as brutal at times as this group is now. But we can talk about that in the weeks to come. We're a long way away from that right now. But I just thought I'd get your opinion on it. I will write that down. That James Akers says there's not a chance in Hades that he gets in power, and I will put that on a cue card, and I'm going to hold it up one night and say, "This is what James Akers said," and I'm with you. Speaking of not a chance in Hades, I got to read you some live wire thing. This is so funny tonight. This is hilarious. I've got to. And by the way, I forgot to say this to the audience. I know some people will know this, but our Israel flattened the building tonight. That's why I was laughing at Zella's comment about Mr. Khomeiни's son was installed. Well, actually, Israel flattened the building where they were meeting to elect the new supreme leader. So I don't think it's a job that anybody would be signing up for tonight. But anyway, having said all that, let me read you the headlines off Breitbart tonight coming out of Texas, because this is huge. Jasmine Crockett is crying voter suppression tonight because she now trails Tellerico that the mega donors got behind. Because in Texas, I think, is a state where you can vote in either primary.
That's correct.
And then John Cornyn is beating Paxton, and I'm actually pulling for Paxton in that race. But incumbent Dan Crenshaw has lost the House. He's lost his House seat, James. That's a rhino. Payton is closing in on Cornyn. Cooper versus Whately, that's going to be the New York Senate showdown, and I think Whately has a pretty good chance of beating him if the North Carolina Republicans will get out and vote. Tom Cotton wins in Arkansas, and Al Green, the impeachment champion of the left, is about to lose his seat in the House and Senate as well. So what's your take on all these elections tonight? Do you think that we're about to see a removal of this establishment, and there's going to be some sense brought back to some of these districts in Texas? How in the world they got Jasmine Crockett and Al Green to represent them in the red state of Texas, I'll never know. And, I heard somebody talking about this tonight, that, the Dems always brag they're going to turn Texas blue, and they never do. Can I use your phrase that I believe that there's not a chance in Hades it goes blue? Because I think there's too many reasonably minded Texans out there tonight that I love dearly, but you don't want your state going blue. And I think people are going to get out and vote for the right candidates. Are you confident that's going to happen out in the Lone Star State?
I sort of tend to agree with you on that. I don't think the whole state's going to flip. I spent several years in Texas, and there are just too many good old boys with a rifle in the back of the pickup truck, that have a whole lot of common sense for that to drift too far. But I think what we are seeing in all of these things is that in the Democratic Party, especially, there's sort of a new wave, of a younger generation that they may not come up with the solutions that we like at the end of the day. But the old guard, they're kicking in the doors of the old guard, and I'm not sure over time what that's going to lead to.
I neither. Let me ask you a question about the Senate. Thune, it only takes, do you realize they only need 5 senators to bring a vote to the floor to replace Thune? He has turned out to be nothing but a complete waste of energy and air. He's not going to bring the SAVE Act. McMullen from Oklahoma is going to, he said they're literally going to have to bust this filibuster out, and if they'll have to do it, they're just going to strong arm it through. They're not going to keep waiting on their leadership to do it. But, James, there's got to be a fundamental change at the top of the Republican Party. These Republicans are driving me more insanely mad and frustrated than anything the Dems do. I expect nothing less than what I'm hearing coming out of Chuck Schumer's mouth, Hakeem Jeffries, the Clintons, all this bunch. We should not get upset about them because that's the Dems, and we should be used to it by now. But what frustrates the living snot out of my body is people like John Thune that's sending the Senate home this weekend for vacation when we've got serious problems going on in this country domestically. And they had a dog show the other day that he claimed was in the way of voting. Tom Tillis today on the floor of the House and the Senate was chastising Kristi Noem for the ICE agents' behavior with the illegals. That was coming from a Republican. Now, Tillis is gone, thank God. And I pray that Whatley holds the seat in North Carolina. But what in the world is wrong with these Republicans? Have we got no distinction anymore between the two parties? Because I don't believe we do. It's almost like I'm listening to Democrats, listening to these losers.
No, I'm. There's very little difference, and now you're hitting a pet peeve of mine. The Christians, for years, have placed their confidence in a conservative label instead of electing people of integrity that espouse basic Christian values. There is no difference between the mainstream Republican these days and the mainstream Democrat. You know, you have the radical wings of both parties, which is driving the rest of the parties. But for the most part, they are more alike than they are different, and none of them. There is no sense of loyalty to the country trumping personal gain while you're in office. And if we don't start ignoring the political labels and electing people of integrity, we're going to see this dog and pony show go on into the infinite future.
Well, let me tell you this, James. If the Dems take the House and the Senate in the fall, I'll lay it on John Thune's table. They've got the SAVE Act that can bring voter integrity to our elections. This filibuster, the Senate could make enough in the next 9 months. We got 9 months left in this year. If they nuke that filibuster, there could be enough laws passed. It wouldn't matter if the Dems took power because everything would be sealed in law. And let me tell you something. Once it gets sealed in law and coded in law, Trump's executive orders, it's hard to get a president to come in and erase that executive order. Because neighbor, he's got to go vote. You got to have the Senate chambers and you got to have the Senate and the House chambers to change laws. You can't do it if it's not as easy to do it. But it is easy if you get a Democrat president in 28. He just reverses everything Trump's done for the last 3 years, and just like Trump did with Biden, and Biden did with Trump the first time. So I think that they have no choice but to nuke this filibuster. Am I right in that?
Well, I think that's a interesting viewpoint and probably a correct one. My problem with what Trump has done, I agree almost all the way down the line with his policies, is that there has been no effort to institutionalize, to make those permanent. And everything is, like you correctly said, everything is riding on the back of executive orders, and those will be reversed day one after the next election.
Why do you think? Do you think Thune is? What is it with Thune? And look, I got some dear friends in South Dakota, and I remember Thune from the Bush years, far more conservative than he is right now. What happens to these conservatives when they go back up to D.C. and get influenced with power? Is it a process that takes place, or are these people just wolves in sheep's clothing? What do you think is happening? Is it money?
Yeah,
Lobbyists? What?
Well, I don't know how many times I've had this conversation about. I've got a lot of friends that work various elections for conservative candidates for issues of life and all of those things that really matter, and they work hard. They get a candidate elected. that candidate comes to Washington, sips the Kool-Aid, and all of the very reasons why he was or she was elected completely disappear. And we've just seen that time and time again in the Christian community. And that's what I was talking about, is because we have become blinded by this issue of political labels rather than the basic integrity of the candidate that we ought to demand, and a patriotism to the country, a selflessness that is what the founding fathers expected. They did not want individuals to become professional politicians, not hold any job like the Bidens of the world that have never held a meaningful job except eating out of the political trough all their lives. And we have too many of those. There are too many lawyers. Here's a lawyer speaking. There are too many lawyers in politics these days, for which the goal is not to make a stand, but to make a deal that benefits yourself financially and otherwise, instead of what's good for the country. We are getting killed by that attitude. That's my soapbox for the night.
Sounds good to me.
Chris.
Sounds good to me. A great soapbox. One final question, I'll let you go. Is there any prayer in Hades that you open that door tonight? So I'm just using your words, Akers. Is there any prayer in Hades that the Senate gets some kind of War Powers Act to restrain Trump's power in Iran? Fetterman tonight saying he's a no vote. So that's one Dem that's already gone over to the other side. So even McConnell and Collins and Murkowski pull their crap. I think we still got the 51 votes. It's just not going to happen. And I hate to tell the senators, these Dems, keep screaming and yelling and cackling and hissing and doing something else starts with a P, and doing your little petulant, throwing my peas act like a bunch of petulant children that you are, because it ain't going to work. I don't think it's got any. It's not. He is well within his constitutional right to do what he's doing, is he not? And I'll let you wrap it up on this.
Oh yeah, and it's of course it's not showing on the mainstream media, but everybody's going back to Nancy Pelosi's. Obama had military action going in Libya for like 7 months or something.
7 months, exactly.
And there was never a war powers resolution, and Nancy Pelosi said no, that does not apply. The president's fully within his constitutional rights. All of this is just, in my mind, political theater. It reminds me of a quote that I've heard about Chuck Schumer, and it's my favorite line about Chuck Schumer. The most dangerous place to be in Washington, D.C. is between Chuck Schumer and a camera. And all of these Dems, all of this is just camera time for them to get some sort of exposure, their day in the sun. There's not a chance in the world that they can challenge what President Trump has done. The very constitutionality of the War Powers Act.
Yeah, I'm with you.
There's nothing in the Constitution that one of these presidents, and it may be Trump, brings that to the Supreme Court. The president has absolute constitutional authority to act on behalf of defending the American people. Of course, you had half of the House that wouldn't even stand and acknowledge that during the State of the Union address, and so this is all the opposition getting camera time, in my opinion. And what we are drifting towards, and here I'm going to climb up on the soapbox again, what we are drifting towards is what happened in Japan, a vibrant democracy in the late 1920s and 1930s, when there were two political parties, they became so antagonistic to each other they couldn't cooperate on anything. No matter what one party said was completely 100% wrong, what the other one said was just the same way, and it was an all or nothing to get a party in power. And when they came in power, the rest of them had to leave, and now you have just this ridiculous situation of where a government is run by executive orders, and it's overturned when the next administration comes in, and it's all because there is so much to lose.
Yeah.
The ins versus the outs. There is no concern for the welfare of the country. I cannot name a single moderate politician that has any chance whatsoever, of aspiring to the high office these days.
Yeah, I'm with you, buddy. Listen, a couple of breaking news stories. We've just been told this happened earlier tonight. Our base in Qatar has been hit. No word of any injuries. The base in Saudi Arabia, thank God, was not really staffed. They had already gotten the staff out of there with the danger that was facing them. But and the reason I'm saying this tonight is suffice it to say as we leave here tonight, James, this is still a dangerous situation in Iran. I hope people do not walk away from the show tonight thinking, well, we've got this locked up, and because I think that it goes back to expectations of when anything like this goes on, it's a dangerous world in the Middle East, and I think that is a fair statement tonight, correct? That we don't need to be thinking that this is going to be a cakewalk, even though we are winning and we're doing a lot of great things. There's still great danger, and you say, well, there's only 20 missiles or 30 being launched instead of 100. Well, that's a good news, but those 20 or 30 missiles in the right place can kill people and destroy a lot of property in towns and villages. And I'll let you wrap us up on that.
No, no, it's still a fluid situation, and there are still a lot of things that could go wrong. I mean, it's gone according to plan basically so far, but there are still a lot of things that can go wrong. Almost every projection when the war planners got together and they were gaming this scenario with Iran, almost every one of them have, as a matter of just chance, something getting through the defense system and hitting one of our major warships and sinking a warship. I'm telling you, if that would happen, you would see consternation in this country like you haven't seen in a long time.
Yeah, I'm with you. Let me let you go, and I appreciate you being with me tonight. Listen, I'll be in touch with you, and hang loose this week. We're going to have an early bird Thursday night, and I'm going to have a later show Thursday too. So I'll get you. We're going to try to do a panel, but I'll have you on the phone with us if we do, and we'll just play this day by day and see what happens, man. And I tell you, our prayers for you and your family. God bless you, and always a pleasure to have you on the McFiles, man. You've become part of our mishpacha, our family, and looking forward to seeing you this spring up in Cincinnati, man.
That sounds good. It's always an honor for me, and I'm flattered that you take my ideas seriously. So.
Oh, I take them very seriously. And there's not a prayer in Hades Kentucky wins tonight, and not a prayer in Hades that Cincinnati wins the Central this year. But other than that, we're good. God bless, friend. You take care. Have a good night now.
You have a good night.
James Akers, everybody, put some fire in that house. Put some fire in that house for him. We've got breaking news out of the Texas Senate race, and Wesley Hunt is not winning over Cornyn and thing. I don't know who's telling you that, but right now, this is as of we're trying to get an update on the election right now. Um, but looks like there's going to be a runoff between Paxton and Cornyn right now. This was just 17 minutes ago, and looks like Talarkio and Crockett are also possibly headed for a runoff. Let me just go to the Washington Post poll. Let's see what we've got. I'm going to put this up here, see if this has got it. Actually, Hunt is only polling at 12%. I don't know who was telling somebody that Hunt's leading them both. Hunt's not even polling it. He's a distant third. But this is the Washington Post election primary ballot. And I'll just let this sort of, there we go. This is the Republican. Cornyn is at 43. Paxton's at 40. Roughly about 30,000 votes separate the two, with 58% of the vote counted. Hunt is at 12.9, a distant third, and other candidates polling in at 3.7. The Democrat situation is even more interesting. James Talarico, the Democrat, is getting ready to end Jasmine Crockett's political career, at least for now, 51.8 to 47%. And looks like that he is going to possibly take this. This is 60% of the votes counted. Now, that was at 9:40, which would have been roughly an hour ago. And we'll try to get some updated numbers for you. But that's the latest we've got, Betty, from Texas tonight. And again, that's the big news right now. North Carolina is set. Cooper versus Whatley. Crenshaw loses the House race. That's not no tears being shed in that. Never was a fan of Dan Crenshaw, to be frank with you. This is an update on Gateway Pundit. 56%. It's still 43 to 40. There's about a 37,000 vote difference between Cornyn and Paxton. And it looks likely now that Talarkico is going to defeat Crockett in the Texas Democrat Senate primary. And Dan Crenshaw has lost his primary to Steve Toth, which is good news. He has been one of the biggest rhinos in Congress, really, to be frank with you, undermined Trump in many ways. And it just was not a good look for him tonight, and his time is done. Also, Al Green, the one that keeps getting thrown out of the State of the Union addresses when Trump's talking, is looking like that he's about to fall to Christian Menifee. This is a freshman member and a member primary. It would be a huge deal. He's been around for a long time. And so that's a big thing tonight. Tom Cotton wins the GOP nomination in Arkansas, going away tonight. So we'll keep an eye on these races. I do want to talk about a few other things tonight. We're going to take your questions. I'll just let you look at the headlines. But I do want to go up here to, and I forgot to mention this to James. I don't know if y'all have heard about this, but the officers that were involved in that shooting Saturday night in Austin, Texas, where the terrorists, it was a terrorist attack outside that bar. 2 people were killed, 14 people were injured. Well, come to find out, people were shocked to hear today that the officers that did the killing of the terrorists, and I'll put my camera up here to talk to you from here, and then we're going to take your questions. But the police that were basically involved in that have been ordered to go before a grand jury to possibly face criminal charges. And I'm not making that up. This is how nutty our legal system has become in this country. But I'm just going to read the headline here. This is just within the last few hours. Panic Soros DA who mandated a grand jury investigation for every officer involved shooting denies police who stopped Islamic terrorists to now face grand jury proceedings amid public pressure after cops lawyer up. And basically, he's walking back his post-George Floyd era policy, which opened the officers involved in the fatal shooting up to a secret grand jury investigation. As the Gateway Pundit reported, an Islamic Senegalese man who obtained citizenship during Obama's presidency was shot dead by police after he opened fire on a bar in Austin, killing 2 and wounding 14. Police reportedly also found a Koran in his car. He was wearing a hoodie that said "Property of Allah" and a shirt that had an Iranian representation of a flag on it. So, just a Southern boy here, just common sense dude. Sounds like he had terrorist intentions at that bar. Just saying. But it was reported that the Austin police officers that heroically shot this guy down was literally going to be having to be hauled in front of a grand jury. But this DA is, I guess, backtracking on it a little bit, and we're hoping that this does not go any further than that. It needs to stop. And it is just crazy, folks, that our police cannot protect us without fear of being basically hunted down themselves and by our legal system. And that's lawlessness. It's just plain apostasy when you get down to it. Here's another big story just to give you an idea of what's happening with Operation Epic Fury. Over 50,000 U.S. troops are involved, 200 jets, 2 aircraft carriers, B-2 and B-1 stealth bombers have been deployed. Reinforcements are coming. There is Admiral Brad Cooper of the U.S. Central Command, and we are doing this full force in Iran tonight, and there's the summary of what has happened. Nearly 2,000 Iranian targets have been struck, 2,000 precision munitions have been deployed, hundreds of ballistic missiles, launchers, and drones have been destroyed, and Iranian air defense systems have been severely damaged. So we're getting the job done, but I want to just caution again that this is not going to be over with tomorrow, and Iran still poses a threat, even though that threat has been diminished. Iran's a big country, and as you heard James say tonight, it's twice the size of Texas. And so we're monitoring that in the elections, and we'll keep you posted throughout the day tomorrow through X and Telegram and so forth. I want to say that we've got a couple of videos I want to play for you tonight, and this is Brad Cooper talking about. This is actually, let me do this first. This is a satellite shot of the Israeli missiles coming into Iran. I think this is, yeah, there we go. This is waves of strikes that the Israelis sort of generated, computer-generated graphic. That's how the Israelis have been hitting all these sites. And I want you to look at this. Those were missile silos before the Israelis and the Americans started doing what they were doing. Look how that turns, that all that red are missile bunkers. And this is the work that's been done since Friday and Saturday morning when all this started our time. It was Saturday afternoon at daybreak. It would have been Friday night into Saturday morning. But there has been a tremendous amount of good that has been done. And by the way, not something you would probably likely see in New York City, but this was interesting tonight. The world is a better place without Khomeini. That's on a billboard in New York City tonight, and there's the Israeli-American flag. I bet you Mandami's having a fit over that, but somebody should be applauded for that. That's a good sign, and grateful to see that. This is Khomeini's son. The Assembly of Experts. The Assembly of Experts got bombed today, but they, in principle, elected Khomeini's son as the new supreme leader. Lanjani is really the one that I think most people are concerned about. But I will tell you this, I love what Cleo said tonight. His widow is already preparing the insurance policy because he's not going to last long. Because what I heard tonight, America is targeting the infrastructure, the bombs, the Navy, the where these weapons are at, to remove Iran's capability of shooting these missiles. Israel is targeting the leadership of Iran. And as I said, if I was an Iranian leader tonight, I heard Trump say it today. In fact, let's got to play this video. This is Trump today about Spain, but he's basically saying that it's a little too late to be crying uncle if you're in Iran tonight. Roll tape.
Everybody was enthusiastic about it. Germany, everybody, and Spain didn't do it. And now Spain actually said that we can't use their bases, and that's all right. We don't want to. We could use their base if we want. We could just fly in and use it. Nobody's going to tell us not to use it, but we don't have to. But they were unfriendly, and so I told him we don't want to. Spain has absolutely nothing that we need other than great people. They have great people, but they don't have great leadership. And as you know, they were the only country that in NATO would not agree to go up to 5%. I don't think they would have agreed to go up to anything. They wanted to keep it at 2%, and they don't pay the 2%. So we're going to cut off all trade with Spain. We don't want anything to do with Spain.
We're going to cut off trade with Spain. Not good for the Spaniards. Not a good look, Spain. You should rethink your thinking there, but you're not going to do it. But no trade. No trade, amigos. But in that same speech today, he was asked by the reporters, what about the Iranian leaders that are coming to you to surrender? He said, it's a little too late for that. It's a little too late for that. So we're about to clean house, and Israel's about to do it. He did say something that I thought was intriguing. We'll play this Thursday night. People are, again, screaming that America's doing this for Israel's sake, and he said, that's absolutely not true. He said, Israel didn't force us our hand at doing anything. He said, this was my decision. Wasn't Bibi's. He said, if anything, my efforts and my decision forced Israel's hand. Israel is invading Lebanon tonight by foot. They're sending foot soldiers across the border to hunt down every Hezbollah terrorist there is, just like they did in the Gaza. And Roger, your question about the Gaza Strip, I don't think this has anything will affect the Gaza peace treaty or the Gaza efforts at all. I think that what it's doing, it's sending a message to Hamas tonight that there's a new sheriff in town, and they keep doing the crap they're doing. If they want to pull something like they pulled 2.5 years ago now, Trump ain't playing around. Trump ain't playing around. I was not happy with the way that they handcuffed Israel at the end to try to get them to quit this campaign, because the world sentiment and the media had lied and lied and lied and lied and convinced people that this was some kind of genocide going on, and it wasn't. Israel was defending itself. But I think that President Trump is coming around to the idea, I hope he is, that these are the people we're dealing with in the Middle East. They're not nothing but evil people with evil intent to see the destruction of Israel, to see the destruction of the American people, the American government, the American way of life. And we are the great Satan in their mind, and Israel's the little Satan. And that goes for Hamas and Hezbollah and Iran and all of their little proxies, the Houthis in Yemen, and all of that branch of whatever this Shia Islamic branch is. But as far as the peace process and the peace initiative there, the peace initiative is going to either be accepted or Hamas is going to be destroyed. I mean, that's the bottom line. So I think if you ask what it's going to do to it, if I was a Hamas leader tonight, I'd be taking very serious notice of what's going on and understanding that maybe it's not a good thing to be a terrorist these days. Not good. Not good. Here is Carl Starmer, our illustrious leader, not mine, but the illustrious leader of England, praising the Muslims in this tonight. Roll tape.
Conflict. No civilian. Now, of course, the war in the Middle East did not begin last week. We've seen far too many innocent lives lost, women and children among them. In Gaza, most of all, we must not lose sight of them and the need for peace, justice, and security in Palestine and Israel.
In the middle of a conflict that is targeting Iran, he's still whining about the casualties in Gaza, not condemning Hamas, mind you. In this speech, he's basically this is a iftar, I think, celebration that they're having tonight. This is sort of the end of Ramadan. And he's telling the Muslims, apologizing to the Muslims for allowing the U.S. to use their bases in Cyprus. He's apologizing for the NATO allies. And that's what Trump said today. This is no Winston Churchill. I would even take Neville Chamberlain over this guy. And that says a lot. Roll tape.
But on Iran, I want to make clear the UK was not involved in the offensive strikes of the US.
The UK was not involved in the offensive strikes of the U.S. He's making sure the world knows that the UK was not involved in this. So much for that special relationship.
And Israel. And that remains the case. As many of you will know,
of course the Muslims are going to applaud that. Of course.
I never supported the Iraq war back in 2003. And I'm determined that we learn and follow the lessons today. However, Iran has attacked countries like us, who played no role, and many countries across the Middle East. They have made no distinction. The attacks are indiscriminate. And so what we're now doing is allowing our bases to be used for the defensive purposes of preventing those attacks and protecting innocent lives. Because that is what we need to do to support our Middle Eastern allies who have asked us for support.
This is why we have directions on shampoo for leaders like that. I'll just leave it at that. And I'm sorry for, we're trying to work on the sound. We're going to get the sound working, get through our speakers so you can hear that a little bit better. Cleo, you're right. The UK didn't even defend their bases in Cyprus. Greece had to go help. That's exactly right. And Trump said he's no Winston Churchill, and he's not a Winston Churchill. He's not even Neville Chamberlain. He's just a loser. Just a loser. Stick a fork in England, Chris, you're right, because they're done. They are absolutely done. And so forth. Any questions tonight? I'm going to turn it over to you. We'll play some more video Thursday night for you. We're going to say goodnight here soon. Any questions, anything you want to say, have at it. It's your turn now. Anything you want to say. Anything you want to say. That's right, Greece had to protect the base in Cyprus. No thanks to England. And Chris, you're right. They're absolutely done. Any of you Texans out there, what's your thoughts on Cornyn and Paxton and Crockett? Jasmine going down like a rock. Going down quicker than the Titanic. Anything about the elections tonight? Israel, anything you want to say real quick? We're going to wrap it up and come on back. Good to see Al Green go. Betty, I'm with you about that. Bob says, what do we need to import from Spain? Not a thing. Not a thing, Bob. I mean, you know, but they need us more than we need them. And see, that's the thing about trade. It's two ways. And if they want to play hardball, let them play hardball. We'll just try. This is why these tariffs are so important. You know, if these people want to screw us over, and I didn't even talk about Carney tonight, and I thought I had a video of him. The illustrious Prime Minister of Canada was out there running his trap today, and I will play that Thursday night. Here it is. Actually, I think I've got it right here. Here is Carney tonight, the Prime Minister of Canada. He had to chime in on things too. He sounded about as bad as Starmer. Roll the tape.
We do, however, take this position with regret because the current conflict is another example of the failure of the international order.
The international order. The failure of the international order. Do you even know what that means, Mr. Prime Minister? Do you have any idea what you're talking about? You do not. No offense to you Canadians. No offense, even though Take offense if you like.
Despite decades of UN Security Council resolutions, the tireless work of the International Atomic Energy Agency,
the tireless work of the International Atomic Energy Agency led us to this place, Carney. They didn't do their job. They winked at the Iranians building this nuclear program. We sat at their table just a week ago and they mocked us to our face and told us, ha, 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 we've got enough nuke fission to build 10 bombs or more. That's what they said. After your illustrious International Atomic Energy Agency was telling the world that there was no way that Iran could build a bomb.
In the succession of sanctions and diplomatic frameworks, Iran's nuclear threat remains. And now, the United States and Israel have acted without engaging the United Nations or consulting allies, including Canada.
I don't think it's our job to consult you, Mr. Prime Minister. No offense. I posted that on my X page today. Who in the you-know-what do you think you are? And who do you think you are that we're supposed to consult you about anything? The only thing I want to consult you about is where I can get my USA beat the blank out of Canada hockey team shirt. If you'll tell me where to find a good price for one of those, I'll wear it on my show. Other than that, I don't care what your opinion is, and I personally don't think Donald John Trump cares about what your opinion is. And the Canadians listen to me that's listening to me out there, this is not against you, it's against him.
So where to from here? With a rapidly spreading conflict and growing threats to civilian life.
And I wonder why there's a growing threat to civilian life, Mr. Prime Minister. Is that America's fault? Is that Israel's fault? Who has been the one fomenting terror for 50 years? Who has been shooting their own people? By the way, tonight, folks, I forgot to bring this up and almost forgot it. Folks, even tonight, do you realize that the Iranian government is shooting on protesters? The people are still marching in the streets of Tehran tonight to bring down the regime, and they're shooting at their own people, even in this late hour, in the middle of all of this. They're shooting on their own people. But Mr. Carney's concerned about the loss of civilian life because America and Israel is trying to stop it. This is why we have directions on shampoo.
Canada reaffirms that international law binds all belligerents. We condemn the strikes carried out by Iran on civilians and civilian infrastructure across the Middle East.
I'm glad
we implore all parties, including the United States and Israel, to respect the rules of international engagement. Canada calls for a rapid de-escalation of hostilities and is prepared to assist in achieving this goal. Resolution of this crisis will require commitment to a broader political solution. And diplomatic engagement is essential to avoid a wider and deeper conflict. Innocent civilians must be protected, and all parties must commit to finding enduring agreements to end both nuclear proliferation and terrorist extremism.
Wow. Wow. Terrorist extremism. So, of course, you wasn't in power when the October 7 attacks hit. I didn't hear one condemnation out of your mouth, your pathetic mouth, about the October 7th terrorist extremism by Hamas, a proxy of Iran, Mr. Carney. So please, the only condemnation you've got is, well, we condemn the fact that Iran's shooting at his own people. That was as weak as you are. I'm sorry, I'm just a little... This hypocrisy of these leaders, him and Starmer, they're just two peas in a pod. It makes me ill to my stomach. It makes me ill to my stomach. This is what gets you into wars. Because, see, this is the thing about the Muslims. This is the thing about Islam. This is the thing about Iran. Iran loves hearing stuff like this. This is why Iran has been allowed for 50 years to run wild over the Middle East, because of leaders just like this. And leaders just like Starmer. That when nations stand up, that have the gall and the to do something about it, people like Canada sit on the sidelines and quarterback. Well, I just hope America and Israel obey international law. Well, please tell me where Iran has obeyed international law and fomenting terror for 50 freaking years. I had to play that tonight. I forgot about that. He's as useless as Starmer. Canadians, that's not against you. I know some of you were It's not against you, nothing personal, but you got a scumbag leader. And we personally don't care here in America what his opinion is about what we do. I don't care. And we don't answer to Canada with our foreign policy. Maybe that's why Trump didn't call him. And I'll amen myself on that one tonight. I'll amen myself on that one tonight. I'll amen myself. Carol, you're right. Until these countries have been threatened to death, they have nothing to say. That's amazing, ain't it? Christina says if Iran develops nuclear weapons, then there will be more death and destruction. What an idiot. The UN is filing for bankruptcy. They need to, Jay. Stephen, do I think the Democrats will win the House or Senate? That's so far away. I don't know. I don't know. If the election was held tonight, it's hard to say. We got a long way to go, my friend. 9 months, 8 months. What is this? March. It's November. That's 8 months. That's like 800 years in politics. So many things can happen. It's hard to say. I hope they don't, but who knows? A lot depends on Christians. A lot depends on people of faith getting out and voting. And I love what James Akers said tonight, that we need to stop looking at the letter. We need to vote Republican because of the balance of power, but we need to start voting for Republicans that care about their country, not rhinos. Because we're blinded by the glitz of these incumbents. And we need to start voting for some good people with some character and some heart that's going to fight for this country. That's going to fight for this country. I'll amen myself on that one. I'll amen myself on a lot of things tonight. Anyway, Elaine says, how many wars has Canada fought on their own soil? That is right, none. That is right. And Pat, your question is great about how many civilians lost their life on October the 7th. The civilian life, he didn't mention a thing about that, did he? Trump is destroying, Roger says, the globalist plans. That's why they are refusing to assist the USA and Israel. That's true. Dennis, how many bases we've got in England? If they shut us down, I don't know. We're not being able to use them anyway, Dennis. You know, it's a terrible thing because Britain and America go back so far, and we're almost done tonight because we're right at an hour and 46, and it's already 10 o'clock tonight, so we're going to wrap this up. You know, it's a terrible shame that two nations that have the history we go back to, even the Revolutionary War, but these two nations have been really, after the 1812 war, when the British burned down the White House, that little incident, we sort of got over and forgave them about it. But we have been side by side in these world conflicts. And with the advent of the Tony Blairs and this Starmer guy and Boris Johnson and all of these losing liberal elites, that relationship has been torn to pieces over the last 10 years. And it is sad. It's sad to see it. And I would not be shocked if Trump doesn't address this with action and sanctions at some point. Because you know something? If Britain's going to act like this, screw them. Screw them. And I hate to use that phrase, but I mean, I don't know any other phrase to use. If Spain's going to act like this, adios, amigos. You know? This is about doing what's right. And if you can't support America, it's not that they have to give us a carte blanche check in Europe to do what we're doing. But in this case, when we're trying to save lives, and it is righteous what we're doing, and it's the crazy thing about it, Starmer, he said it without even saying it. He probably didn't even realize what he said to that audience. When he said that they've attacked our bases, they've attacked other nations, he said it as a slur because he was basically insinuating, well, because of our support for America, that's why they're attacking us. And if we wasn't supporting America, they wouldn't have, which is a lie. Iran would kill everybody in the Middle East that doesn't bow to Islam. That's why London has turned Islamic, because they're scared of nations like Iran. They're scared of nations, and they're scared of the jackbooted hill of Islam. And England is scared. That's what cowards do. They get in foxholes and they hide. Trump's not a coward. And that's why Stammer hates Trump. And that's why Stammer hates the U.S. and our actions in Israel. So let the coward cackle. Let the coward Carney cackle. I could care less. And we don't answer to Britain, and we don't answer to Spain, and we don't answer to Canada. Because we're Americans. And we do what's right. At least when we've got good leadership here. So that's how I feel about it. That's how I feel about it. That's how I feel about it. All righty. Looks like we had a little glitch there. But looks like we had a little glitch for a second. We're good. We're good. We're good. We're good. All righty. Listen, I'm done for tonight. Final thoughts. Carol, do you wonder if Britain would have our attacks? Have our backs if we were attacked? Nope. I don't believe they would. I don't believe they would. Not at this juncture. Not with him in office. Maybe with a different leader. But Britain's gone so far left. The days of Margaret Thatcher are done and gone. Winston Churchill, gone. It would be a miracle of miracles of miracles if Britain in their next election went back to the right. I don't see that happening. So this kind of attitude and action is going to probably be a norm for the foreseeable future. Unless we get a left president and they'll bow down and kiss our feet because they'll have a mirror leftists over here like they do there. And God help us if that happens as a nation. But no, right now, no, I don't think they would. I may be wrong about that, but I don't think they would. Good show tonight. Good to see Christina in the house. Good to see all the folks in there that's been out here with us tonight. Put some fire in that house if you have enjoyed the show. We enjoyed James Akers tonight. Listen, we got a brand new guest coming Monday night, for Thursday night. Bob Maness. He is a military intelligence guy. And our buddy James R. is the one that got him to come on the show, and I'm excited for that. We're going to have James R. back soon, maybe Monday night, and late to talk about some of this stuff. James has been busy with his show, and we've been busy with things, but hadn't forgot him. But just a lot of things going on right now. This is a very fluid, developing situation, and as I told you Saturday, we may have some late shows. We may have some double features over the next several weeks, depending on events on the ground and if there's special reports. And we've got some shows already planned this month. And we're going to try to work all this in together. And so just hang loose with us. We're going to try to keep you informed. By the way, these opinions are mine. You ain't got to agree with them. We're going to love you and laugh with you. We may laugh at you sometimes, but we're going to laugh with you. But these opinions are mine. You can have yours. We just ask you to be respectful about it. And McFilesForum@gmail.com if you'd like to chime in. And we hope you've enjoyed the show tonight. We've had a good crowd tonight. Really have. I want to thank James Akers for his insight, as always. Very, very insightful information about what's going on in the world, in the Middle East tonight. Be with me the rest of the week. Starting tomorrow night, we're going to have a special on Purim and the anti-Semitism that is raging in this country. We're going to have a lot to say about that on a special Wednesday night face show tomorrow night. And then we're going to be back here Thursday night at 8 o'clock and probably a late show Thursday night late, okay? The next time I'll see you is in the morning. If you like a good old-fashioned, hard-hitting, Holy Ghost-filled Bible study, come be with us, 10 o'clock on the Spirit and Word Fire Network. And start at 10 Eastern. You won't be disappointed. It's good stuff going on in that Bible study and a good group of people. May the Lord bless you tonight. Have a good night, everybody. See you back here tomorrow. Another one's in the books, as Jay Morris used to say, and does say from time to time. God bless you guys. Have a good one. And we will see you back here tomorrow. Have a good night, everybody. Be blessed. Good night.